Can you tell us, please? I see it in the background there, your snow family. Can you tell us about your snow family and how that all came to be? There's a
Yeah,
story there, right?
there's a huge story there. It actually always makes me smile, and it happened during a very crazy time. My husband decided to leave behind his roofing business. He sold it and go to work for the railroad. So he's from a long line of railroad family members, people who not only built railroads, but were railroad engineers. And so we moved to the high desert, not far from Barstow, for his training, and moved into a brand new home in a neighborhood that was just under construction. And so there was a mix up with who was turning the utilities on. And so we get there, and he basically just grabs his overnight bag and takes off with the only car we had. And we were left in the house. And I began to realize it was freezing in there. And I went to, I flipped on the heater, and I flipped on a light switch, and nothing, no
Oh
power,
my,
no heat. I went to the sink, there was no water. And I thought, oh my gosh, we didn't have a phone. This is long before we ever bought our first cell phones. So we're talking like 1997 that we were alone, me, my four little children, and no utilities at all. And the miracle was that we had accidentally come up there with one of our 50-gallon barrels of water. So we had two of these in San Diego, and the whole idea is in California, people store water because there could be an earthquake. And
okay.
so in case the pipes are damaged or your house explodes from gas, somehow you've got some water storage. And so we had dumped one of these, and the other one, the guys that were helping us move didn't get the direction. And so he had loaded that barrel of water full in the very, very front of the truck, and all the beds and dressers and everything came on after. And then the other guy dumped his barrel of water in the gutter and loaded his on the back. And I said, well, where's the other barrel? And the other guy says, oh, I'm sorry. I didn't realize I was supposed to dump that. It's full and it's in the front of the truck. Well, what a miracle, because when we got everything unloaded and into the house and none of the furniture was put together, this guy gets this barrel off and puts it right by the garage door. So my first thought was, I have water. So we began to kind of figure out a way to go forward with canned food and this barrel of water, but it got really cold. That night it was 40 degrees in the house. And we had winter clothes. We used to go up to Big Bear and go sledding and do snowball fights, because San Diego, there's no snow, right?
Right.
Well, it happened to snow in the high desert. And so this next morning, after we had laid down on the mattress on the floor and put every blanket we owned and every sleeping bag out of the camping gear was piled high, and the kids were all bundled up in their winter clothes day and night, they were walking around the house, and really cold. You could see their breath. And I thought, you
Oh,
guys look like a bunch of little snowmen,
terrible.
you know, waddling around with their gloves and scarves and hats. And they were little. My youngest was 4. Ryan, who had inspired me with the whole idea of puzzles, was about 6. And so these little guys and my daughter and my other son were all dressed up. And I thought, you're the perfect models. I'm just going to sit down and we're going to paint. Everybody's going to, do crafts and cut out snowflakes, and I'm going to paint snowmen. And years have gone by, and I have made money on that. It's over $60,000 that I have made in royalties from that first snow family. And so, I mean, here it is, this year's version from Dollar Tree. This is the little snowman that's based on Ryan, my little puzzle inspiration, rubber stamp inspiration. So I painted this little family and changed colors and things like that in Photoshop. But that's kind
Isn't
of
that
got
amazing?
me, every year I kind of rely on that. And then my kids we have a family trust now, and so they get a portion of the royalties. They've all worked for the company now and helped me keep things going through the years. So
Isn't it amazing how many of your milestones and life events really have just been because everything was meant to be?
yeah, and
It
it's
really
really
seems like
been things were really tough.
Yeah.
Really like starting the roofing business and going through a really hard time with it and deciding we'd sell it was a time that we were paying off $80,000 in credit card debt. And
Mm,
so we had a rule that we would not spend money on anything unless it sustained life. And that included toothpaste and toothbrushes because
mhm,
kids would
mhm,
have told them that we won't be going on vacation this year and we're not going to be doing, eating out. We're going to skip a lot of things that we can stay home and make grilled cheese and a can of soup instead of Happy Meals. And it was
mhm,
just awful, but we did it. And so that little, tug on my sleeve about go buy that, rubber
mhm,
stamp. I
mhm,
told my son, no, that doesn't sustain life.
mhm. Right, right.
And yet it became the means while my husband was, years later working for the railroad, waiting for that first big check, 6 weeks without a paycheck while he went through training with no pay. That check from Michael's Craft Stores, that royalty check from Commotion came and it paid our rent, it bought food. Of course, we made sure those utilities were on,
Right.
you know. That was an adventure. It's always been a point in my life where things kind of push me in a new direction is when I'm usually discouraged or like walking out of the museum and being told, "Hey, your art's not good enough."
Mm, right, right, right. But
Yeah.
it just seems to be you make it happen what was meant to happen.